So we're going to move over now to Lieutenant Colonel Dan Sparks, my fraternity brother representing the U.S. Marine.
Yo,
Yo, Brother Sparks, how are you today?
I'm fantastic. How you doing there, JJ?
I'm doing great, thank you. We've seen a lot of really exciting opportunities, and I understand that the Marine Corps has some exciting opportunities as well. Do we have a video for you that starts us off?
We certainly do, because the thing I want to emphasize is the unique connection between Kappa Alpha Psi and the United States Marine Corps. So if we could run that short film right now, I'd appreciate it.
Let's take a shot.
Frederick C. Branch was a Kappa man. He was from Hamlet, North Carolina, and he initiated into our noble fraternity at Alpha Epsilon chapter at Winston-Salem State University. He then went on to Temple University, where he majored in physics. In 1943, he was drafted into the United States Army, but was selected to be a Marine. And upon becoming a Marine, he was further selected to be the first Black man to attend Marine Corps Officer Candidate School. As the film showed you, he was commissioned in 1945, and he served until 1955. He was an anti-air defense officer in World War II and in the Korean conflict. Upon his leaving the United States Marine Corps, he returned to my home, Philadelphia, PA, where, using his physics degree, he became a teacher at Bartram High School, where he taught all of his life up until shortly before his death. He is currently interred at the Quantico National Cemetery in a place of honor. He came into my Marine Corps a Kappa man, a man of letters, and went to combat. All of my other peers who have spoken to you today have talked about the amazing opportunities for you all to pay for college. All of that money comes from the Department of Defense and has various flavors. And I'm not going to necessarily go over that. What I have to explain to you all is that the Marine Corps, as mandated by Congress in 2015, we are America's force in readiness. We must be the most prepared when the nation is least prepared. Every Marine, be it male or female, is first and foremost a rifleman. We must be the edge of the sword. When the president picks up the phone and dials 911, the Marine Corps answers that call. And as such, my Marine Corps is not for everyone, which is fine. We are the smallest, we are the most elite, and we are the ones who have to carry an undue burden when it comes to combat in the 21st century. Now, that said, if we could go to the next slide. Next slide, please. Now, we are part of the Department of the Navy, hence NROTC, Navy Reserve Officers Training Corps. That said, the pots of money and the requirements are essentially the same for Army, Navy, and Air Force. I personally went through Officer Candidate School. I was at Howard University. I enlisted in 1987 into the reserves, and upon graduating from Howard University, I went to Officer Candidate School and was commissioned as second lieutenant in 1995. I wear my Kappa blazer now instead of my uniform because after 32 years of honorable service, I retired in 2019. Next slide, please. Now, I bring up Frederick Branch because a few years ago, in order to attract the best and most fully qualified Black candidates to become officers in the Marine Corps, Marine Corps Recruiting Command set up the Frederick C. Branch Scholarship, which is targeted specifically to Navy ROTC units at HBCUs or at schools that are in what's called an HBCU consortium. I went to Howard University, where we have Army and Air Force ROTC. The Navy ROTC is across town at George Washington University. But since we are in that consortium, you can be a student at Howard University, be on a Navy ROTC scholarship, Marine Corps option. You would go across town to George Washington University for your classes. And if you see on the screen ahead of you, and right up there right now, we have the schools that participate in that. Next slide. We are extremely selective in the Marine Corps, and the bulk of we only commission maybe 2,500 lieutenants a year, the bulk of which come from ROTC. You must be able to meet the mental, moral, and physical requirements in order to be selected as an officer candidate in the Marine Corps. Very similar to the other branches of service. But since we are the smallest and since we are the most elite and selective, the competition is extremely, extremely tight. There are steps that you must take as a junior and senior in high school to position yourself, not just for the branch scholarship, but for all ROTC scholarships. You must be active in your school. You must have fantastic grades. You should be an athlete. You must show that you're a well-rounded person, because you as a high school senior will be competing with the best and the brightest of kids all over the country. There are kids competing right now to get those few slots. Now, although I did not go through ROTC, I can speak from personal experience because my son Dylan is a rising junior at Davidson College in Davidson, North Carolina. He has a 3-year Army ROTC scholarship. It's worth over $200,000 because Davidson College is $72,000 a year. Now, I told you it was a 3-year scholarship. His first year was paid for by my GI Bill benefits, post 9/11 GI Bill. Since I served in the armed forces, I have 48 months of college tuition and books and other allowances that I, as a serviceman, am entitled to. I could give it to my wife or I could give it to my children. And I gave that to both of my sons. It carried Dylan for his first year. Then his second year, because Davidson is so expensive, his 3-year scholarship kicked in. And the other slides have talked about those benefits that you receive. So I speak from experience on how that has helped my family and has helped us to get in a position to pass on that generational wealth. Next slide, please. Next slide, please. The benefits have been established already earlier in this presentation by my peers. But I want to go on a different tack. If you go to look at Black demographics, which is statistics for us, by us, the average salary of a Black man in the United States is $47,000 a year. And the average net worth of a Black woman, according to Congress, is less than $200 a year. By you going to college on Uncle Sam's dime, you will be head and shoulders ahead and above your peers who are racking up thousands of dollars of college debt. My son now, through his ROTC scholarship, and my VA benefits that I'm getting because I am a disabled veteran, will graduate college debt free and will actually have some savings. There is no other program in the United States where a student, no matter what high school you went to, no matter your SAT level, can go ahead and be economically secure. Next slide, please. You will have to take your leadership classes. Dylan takes a leadership class once a semester, and now as he's going into his junior year, he'll go off to camp, which will be his first introduction into real military life. That's important because you have to understand the commitment that the country is going to be asking you in return. The Marine Corps is the most lethal fighting force in the world. You will deploy. You will go to combat training. I'm not saying this to scare you. I'm saying this to let you know that there was the old slogan that if it was easy, then anybody could get into the Marine Corps. We are extremely selective, and if you choose a different branch of the service, you will also be asked, you will be ordered from time to time to go into the combat zone. No matter what branch of service you're in, no matter what your military occupational specialty, you will have to deploy. My shipmates have gone to sea. My friends in the Army, Rangers lead the way. They have been to Afghanistan and Iraq. I have friends now in the Air Force who are on the continent of Africa right now. And although you may not deploy into combat, you will deploy to far off lands to do training with our allies. You will be expected to pack your things, follow your orders, and go overseas. I've been to a lot of amazing places, but I've been to a lot of hot and dusty places. I've been to Norway above the Arctic Circle, where I froze and I ate reindeer meat stew, training alongside our Norwegian counterparts. So from that, much is given, much is going to be asked of you. Napoleon Bonaparte once said, in the military, the moral is to the physical as is 3 to 1. That means the fighting spirit of a force is crucial to success in battle. You will be expected, Lieutenant, to, in your payback, you will have to go ahead and lead your soldiers, sailors, airmen, Coast Guardmen, and Marines to some austere places to do the job that the United States asks of you. Next slide, please. Next slide, please. As I said before, all the other peers have spoken about these eligibility requirements. The thing about the branch scholarship is that you must have been accepted to an HBCU. Don't think you can game the system, apply for the branch scholarship, get one of these very few rare branch scholarships, but then you take it to go to University of Southern California. That's not going to fly. You are actively taking away a spot from some other student who could go to Grambling, who could go to Tuskegee. So think very carefully when you apply. Next slide, please. There's the website there. Since we are part of the Navy, you go nrotc.navy.mil. But since we Marines aren't the sharpest tools in the box, just dial this number, 1-800-MARINES. And there'll be a friendly Marine who will answer that phone call and answer whatever questions you have and point you in the right direction. Once again, 1-800-MARINES. Next slide, please. There are boards. The earlier, in my experience, the earlier board that you apply to, the better your chances and the quicker a response you will get. As a senior, there's a board that goes in October, and then there is another board in December and another one, like I said, in February. My son Dylan missed the first board, but he got the October board. If he had been on the first board, he perhaps would have gotten a 4-year vice a 3-year scholarship because they fill up the slots. So stay in touch with your counselors. There's a lot of resources out there, but you have to be prepared. You have to plan. If you fail to plan, you plan to fail. It's not going to be easy to get this money and get these opportunities. So don't rely on your parents. Don't rely on your counselors to push you in that direction. Get online, pick up the pen, go ahead, write your essays, and answer the questions. Next slide, please. If there are no further questions, this concludes my portion of the brief. Thank you very much, and Semper Fidelis.
Colonel Sparks, thank you. That was a great presentation. I wanted to ask you real quick, just as a follow-up, what are the boards and what do they do?
So for all the ROTC programs, students all over the country will submit their applications. And these applications are screened by boards of serving officers to pick out from who's going to get them. So for instance, you would apply for your ROTC scholarship and you would have a face-to-face interview. With the Marine Corps, we have what's called Officer Selection Officers, an OSO, OSO. This OSO will interview you and take you to run what's called a physical fitness test to see that you meet the minimum physical standards. That OSO will then sign off on your package. That package will go to the board. And the board, I don't know the exact makeup, maybe it's an odd number, 9 to 11 officers who will review it. And they will, it's sort of like when you apply for colleges, the admissions team has to look at your qualifications. So these boards will go ahead to seek out the best and most fully qualified in order to give these very valuable scholarships to. And as an aside, going back talking about the unique bond that Kappa has with the Marine Corps, not only was Fred Branch, our Kappa man, the first Black Marine officer, but currently we have 6 Black generals in the Marine Corps. 2 of them are Kappa men, Lieutenant General Select Langley and Major General Brian Cavanaugh. And out of the 25 total Black generals who have been in the Marine Corps, 4 of them have been Kappa men. And the overwhelming majority of all those have gone to HBCUs. We haven't had any Black general officers in the Marine Corps who attended an Ivy League institution. The bulk came from HBCUs. So we recognize that in order to get the numbers of Black officers we want, that we must embrace and fund programs through the HBCUs.
Wow, that's awesome. Listen, I wanted to ask you one more question too, because you've had a chance to have a career in the military, and you retired at a fairly young age. But still have to work. Is there a market for you after you retire from the military when you go out into the world?
Most definitely. I'm on the other side. You have these other young colonels and lieutenant colonels who are still serving, and what you do is you call it as transition from active service to either you retire or after your 6 years, after you're 10 years in, and you move into the civilian workforce. I was lieutenant colonel in Okinawa, Japan in 2017, when I was a reserve officer drilling there and I was making the transition. My first job was in Abu Dhabi, UAE. The company interviewed me, they hired me, and they gave me a plane ticket. I packed up all my gear from Camp Courtney in Okinawa, Japan, and I flew straight to Abu Dhabi, where I have worked for the past 4 years. And after my time in Abu Dhabi was completed, I put that information out on LinkedIn that Dan Sparks is transitioning, and my inbox was full. And I'm currently just started this week my job as a project manager with a firm called Blue Yonder, which is the world's largest supply chain software firm. So anyone, whether you do 3 years, 6 years, 10, or 32 years like me, you are in demand because military folks are self-starters. We work hard. We show up on time. We come from good moral character, and we work hard. We want to prove ourselves every day. And I tell folks in the interview, I'm the dog that you have to pull back. You don't have to kick me in the tail and say, well, Dan, we need this project done. Can you handle this file? Can you do the TPS reports? I tell them, if you hire me, I'm going to keep going until you pull back on my leash to stop. That's just how we're wired as military folks. And the civilian workforce sees that, and they want us. They want us badly.
Wow. Well, listen, I think that's a great way to kind of wrap up here. So I want to thank each of you, Major Cotton, Commander Thomas, Colonel Sparks. They're going to be over in the chat for a while. And so we're going to kind of wrap this up. It's been a really full day of just some great information. And again, I want to thank our National Director, Kevin Burnett, the National Guide-Right Commission, Brother Willie Pratt, and the Military and Veterans Affairs Committee. Also, all of our great presenters today. You guys represented your branches of the military with true distinction, and we appreciate it. Last and not least, I want to thank my fraternity brother and partner in crime, my producer, Troy Sleepy Floyd Johnson. Come on in, Troy, because without you, none of this would be possible. Can you talk to the people a little bit about what you're doing?
Yeah. Thank you, JJ. It's a pleasure for me to be here collaborating with Kappa League TV. I have a YouTube show myself. It's called Bet Out of Debt. It airs Sunday mornings live at 8:15 a.m. So tomorrow, 8:15 a.m. We talk about financial things. I talk about best practices in investing, and I also bring guests on.
All right. Well, we're going to wrap up this program for today. I want to thank all of our audience for coming and staying. This was a lot of information. There were at least 10 different scholarship opportunities that were presented throughout our different branches of the military. And remember, if you can go to college and get hundreds of thousands of dollars of education and get somebody else to pay for it, and then come out with a contract that guarantees you a job afterwards, you are way ahead of the game. This isn't the only way to do it, but this is one way that has been very, very successful for all of our presenters and for thousands of Kappa men over the years. So I want to thank everybody for coming out, and we will see you next time on Kappa League TV.